Good afternoon, everybody. This is Purple Update Live. I am your host, Joe Johnson, owner of purplePTSD.com and VikingsTerritory.com. I do believe that I got the laptop working. For those of you who have been tuning in through my tumultuous tech issues, really since the start of this show. So I'm hoping that I'm coming through loud and clear. And, well, maybe not clear. I don't think that's good for anybody. But it's Saturday, which means it's open line Saturday. I have a few things I wanted to rant about, but if there's any questions or comments that you guys had about the team in general, tomorrow's game against the Lions, so on and so forth, let me know and we will get into it. As promised, I did come through for once and got the shirts that I've been talking about this week finished. They are live on purpleptsd.com right now. If you click on merchandise, you will see it. Not memorabilia, but merchandise. Let's see if this camera can get it. Oh, wow, this is really good content. This might be my thumbnail. You can do it. Well, there it is. Don't get too cute with our logo on it. That's not the best example. Maybe I will find the one that I would wear, which is this one, the white one. So it doesn't look too just MS Painty, I guess. But that is similar to the Hey everybody, this is Purple Update Live, open line Saturday for the 7th of December. I thought I figured out my tech issues. I was very excited to show you guys that, but as you can see, something went wrong during the stream. Please contact support and try again. Story of my life, and now I have a cat to deal with. If anyone... I'm glad the P hit up Purple PTSD and not something else. We are actually live on Yardbarker now. So if you're a Yardbarker user, you can get all of our content there. Otherwise, if you go to purpleptsd.com and shirts and junk, not on exclusively because that goes to autographed team content. Assuming that this laptop can even connect to the internet, it's brand new. You think I would expect better from Walmart.com. All tech guys go to Walmart for their stuff, right? I mean, I'm not alone in that. I did come through this week, which is shirts. And I'll get the chat so I can see what you guys are saying, as it is Open Line Friday. Yeah, this laptop is just brutal. Wow. That's just really disconcerting. Okay, so if you click for you... Assuming you didn't get your laptop. You will see a few different options. I like the handbag myself, but the don't get too cute shirts. They are for sale right now. I think the t-shirt's like $17. I don't control the prices at all. It's a third party, obviously. Maybe I will send some out to some of our regular friends of the show. But today, yeah, I wanted to just chat with you guys a little bit, get your thoughts on tomorrow's game, so on and so forth. The NFC North in general, perhaps. Well, really, I'll let you guys kind of dictate the flow of the show, too. I mean, any questions, comments are there. It's looking like Dalvin Cook is going to play tomorrow, which will be huge. I've had some debates on Bleacher Report, which is where our show or our sites are cross-posted as well, about the article written by Kirby O'Connor in regards to the opportunity that it would provide Alexander Madison. I really believe that he is going to be a rookie contract guy here and leave, assuming that Cook's injuries don't pile up and end his career prematurely. The guy just, he looks really, really polished for a rookie, and that's not really super surprising considering how many touches he did get at his time at Boise State. He was really a bell cow guy, which is a little surprising
considering how many teams in college sports run spread offenses and don't necessarily use between the tackle guys. But for a bell cow guy, I mean, his hands, his ability to make catches in motion, his fluidity is just really, really awesome. And I think that one of the arguments that I had on Bleacher Report was I made a comment that he looked more polished than Dalvin Cook did as a rookie. Because some people were saying, well, obviously, well, we'd rather have Cook than Madison, and I'm like, of course we would, but I think he's shown a lot in the limited amount of time that he's been on the field, and the response to that was, well, Dalvin Cook led the league in rushing in the 4 games that he played in his rookie season before he tore his ACL, which I'm sure is true, or he was near the top. I think the difference is that we've only seen Madison in limited spates, and he has. I think the statistic was like 17% of the time he picks up a run for over 10 yards. He's like 4th on the list for the most explosive player as a percentage of their touches. And so I think that it would be a really good opportunity tomorrow. That having been said, I almost don't want him to get those opportunities. I'd rather just see him continue to be the change of pace guy because, again, I don't see him being a second fiddle guy for long, which is fine. I mean, that's a really selfish take for me to say that I'd rather him just come in and catch teams off guard for his entire career as opposed to him maximizing his potential financially and otherwise. But I'm desperate at this point. You know what I mean? But definitely let me know if you guys are here. Tang is usually here. Then, like that, you speak his name and he appears like Candyman, but I only had to say it once. Sorry, dude. I don't know if you saw the start of the stream, but I had the laptop going. I thought I fixed the problem. I reset the network adapter, and I had an error from my the app that we're using. So I don't know what to do. I'm gonna have to return it. That just seems like a huge pain in the ass, though. Oh, great first idea for a topic. Tang just commented thoughts on Kirk contract extension if he gets it. Oh, you didn't get the. I'll show you really quickly. Then I came through as I said I would. I'm a man of my word. Let me flip the camera. Too cute merch. It's here. In time for Christmas and Hanukkah and whichever spaghetti monster deities people follow. I mostly made that as a joke, but I'm actually gonna buy it myself and rock it. Again, we don't control the prices. I know some of it seems kind of spendy. I think we get like a 0.5% of commission from it. We don't make a lot of money. We don't sell a lot of merch either, but we don't focus on it a whole lot. I actually put up some really cool Duluth Eskimo stuff as well, and some Tecmo, like the Minnesota Miracle / Minneapolis Miracle, but in Tecmo Bowl. It's pretty sweet. So back to the extension. I wrote an article about this actually like 3 weeks ago now. If you were to Google has Cousins earned a contract extension, you'll find it. If you don't see it, just put purple PTSD after that. It did end up on Bleacher Report. They poll about 50 to 75% of our articles, depending on the week, and it got like 200 comments. I don't think this will be any surprise to you guys, but I am fully for extending Cousins. Let's just say, as an argument, removing money for this part of the argument. Cousins, when he signed his deal, and I'm sure you guys are aware of this, but he signed it almost in LeBron Jamesian fashion for a 3-year deal as opposed to a longer-term deal because he thought that he could re-up after 3 years and make more money because he was smart enough, or at least his agent was, but I think Kirk is a pretty savvy guy, to say that I know that this deal is so one of a kind and strange, or at least once in a decade or two, that a quarterback of his caliber, regardless of what you thought of him or think of him, would be available on the free agent market. And he's what at the time 29, 30 years old. That just doesn't happen. I think that's part of the reason why people were skeptical of him. I kind of leaned more towards the Redskins are a garbage organization. Probably one of the worst in all, or the worst in pro sports. And he knew that it was because of the rarity of it that it would set the market, and that other quarterbacks that were more established, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, would then go to their teams and say, well, if Cousins, a guy who hasn't really won anything, gets this amount, why am I not making that amount? Why is my stuff not more guaranteed? So that upped the market, and that's the article that I wrote a couple days ago, which was, where does Cousins' contract rank in retrospect? It's not this earth-shattering deal, or at least not as earth-shattering as it was at the time. And he thought, I'll be able to play well enough to prove myself to get even more money after 3 seasons. So I'm removing the money from my thoughts on it because I am concerned as to whether or not they will be able to afford him. The salary cap does go up about $10.5 million every year. At least it has been as part of the last CBA. And so they'll have more money. And people have argued that there's 2 windows of opportunities for this Vikings team, with this defensive core being especially signed till 2023, as is Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen. And so, if they were to re-sign him for another 3 years, maybe they could take advantage of that second window of opportunity and just make it one long window of opportunity. But again, removing money and whether or not it'll be feasible to do it, has he earned it in my mind? Yeah. Without a doubt. I mean, I said this yesterday, but I'm really scratching my head about being 35 years old and being one of the guys who has been on. I was on Reddit back when we were hitting refresh, waiting for Brett Favre to arrive at Winter Park, and back in preseason or the off season before the 2009 season. I've been arguing sports online since 2002. On message boards, on AOL chat rooms before that. And so I bring that up because that entire time we've really, as fans, been just desperate for a franchise guy. A guy who wasn't a Warren Moon, a Randall Cunningham, a Brett Favre, who isn't coming in at the end of their Hall of Fame career to, potentially try to make a run at a Super Bowl for a team that is desperate for a quarterback but has every other piece. We've come close to that. Twice, I believe, in that time, maybe 3 times. Brad Johnson being one of those guys, Dante Culpepper, Teddy Bridgewater. Injuries kind of screwed things up for the latter 2. And I really feel like, regardless of what you think about how Cousins is getting these numbers, he is getting these numbers, and the team is succeeding with him. And he is not the reason that this team is 8-4. He might be the reason they lost 2 of those games, but since then he's played well and he's played consistently. You can argue as to how that happened, whether or not Dalvin Cook is a big reason for that, or it's play calling. But I guess the best way to put it is that amount of consistency and that output. I don't know where you would get that elsewhere after next season. I mean, what would you do? Hope another guy of his caliber is a free agent, and then you sign him to a similar deal? Do you draft somebody this year high up in the draft, and then you let him learn for a season behind Cousins? A lot of people who were ranting about my article about this, my question was, well, what is your alternative? Because while I don't think Cousins' season last year was as good as the numbers show, because it was historically good for the franchise, right? 4,000 yards passing, 30 touchdowns, over 30 touchdowns, 10 or fewer interceptions, over 70% completions. No one has ever done that for the Vikings. And I get that a lot of that did come in garbage time at the end of the season, but I don't think the season was as disastrous as people say it was either. I think he carried the defense to start the season, and then the offensive line, lack of a run game, and lack of consistency from the offensive coordinator position hurt. but I think he's earned these numbers this year. I think he has put this team on his back. That's the new go-to argument. I feel like there's these rotating goalposts for what people consider good enough for Cousins. He doesn't beat good teams. Okay, well, he's beating good teams, but he doesn't come from behind. Okay, he's come from behind, but is he putting the whole team on his back in general? Considering how the defense has played and the fact that they've, won, let's see, 6-2 since week 4. And the defense has played worse and worse. Starting about, I don't know, 4 or 5 weeks ago. Putting a team on your back is clearly subjective, but whether or not they can afford him is a different issue. But has he earned an extension? Yes. For a franchise that maybe outside of the Browns or the Bears has just never had consistent quarterback play. The stat that I always go to is the Vikings haven't had a quarterback play all 16 games in back-to-back seasons since 1978. And while that doesn't necessarily mean that you don't have some consistency because maybe you just have a guy who misses a game here or there, we haven't had any consistency. And now we have a guy who's 31 years old who is, regardless of how you think he's getting there, putting up numbers, taking advantage of the talent around him. I completely think he's earned an extension. I would argue that the person that should be worried about an extension is Zimmer. We know Spielman's not going anywhere. And they've given Zimmer everything he's wanted to build the defense that he would build if he knew how to play Madden, if they had like a one-eye version. And he got to create a player with no salary cap, no cap on points for skills, and he just built 11 guys. They've given him the money, they've given him the draft picks, and if him with this defense can't get it done, and I'm not just saying this to rip on Zimmer, I just don't think he's going to be able to, after next season, all of a sudden, as these guys are getting older, figure it out. I'm not necessarily blaming him for like Rhodes' decline. You can't control that, but you can bench him, and you can put in your guy that you drafted in the first round last year and expect him to play better than the guy who's imploding, I guess is the best way to put it. Hughes, I understand, has been injured, but if he can't play better than Rhodes is playing, Rhodes had it was the quarterback equivalent of Josh Freeman's game against the Giants a few years ago. Awful. In every sense of the word, not just on the field, on the sideline, freaking out, throwing his helmet because he got benched for a play. The guy's having a mental and physical breakdown. And if your first-round pick from last season can't step in and do better, or if even Holton Hill can't, when your coach is known as a cornerback whisperer, then why would you extend him? That's my argument. And that sounds like a really good article. I'm going to replay the show, do text to type, or talk to text, and do that. All right, sorry, that was a really good question. I appreciate it. Let me scroll up because there's a lot of comments. Green screen to death. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. When I turn the camera, it turns green. I'll turn the camera myself so you can see it. Hopefully you can see it. The Too Cute merchandise. I did it. Just go to purplePTSD.com and click on shirts and junk, and you'll see that I made some really cool Duluth Eskimo stuff as well. If you guys want that, Tang, if you email me, joe@purpleptsd.com, I'll buy you a shirt, man, a Too Cute shirt, and then I get a deal on it because I guess I get like $2 commission, so or 20 cents. Walter agrees on the extension. Tang said that we need to shift some of the money on defense to offense. Yeah. I really think that outside of money, that we also should be. And can I ask you guys a question, Tang and Walter? Can you see each other's comments? I've wondered if I maybe sent a link out in a tweet so you guys could see what I'm seeing in regards to to Chats, but I wasn't sure. I doubt you would be able to. Anyway, in regards to, I'll take two of these things and kind of make a rant out of them. Moving money from defense to offense, and then also Zimmer getting rid of DeFilippo was the best thing he ever did. Because it's open line Saturday, I'm going to go out on a limb, and this may not be very popular, but I almost feel bad for DeFilippo because while I think it was really insubordination to not listen to your head coach, side note, you're the head coach. You don't ask your guy to do something. You can tell him to do it. You can call those plays yourself. The fact that it was like, oh, I keep telling him to run it, and he's not running it, that's not how this works. It's not even like a boss at work who leaves and is like, oh, well, you told me I couldn't smoke in my cube, but I'm doing it anyway. You have that power. That argument never made any sense to me. Besides that, look what DeFilippo was working with. That ties into what Tanning said about moving money from defense to offense. Now, what I said about Zimmer and giving him carte blanche to use that money and draft capital, they didn't draft an offensive lineman before the 4th round from after Khalil in 2012 all the way until Brian O'Neill. How do you build a winning team in the NFL that way? I've said this on the show before, but back in the year that Bradford and the team started 5-0, went to the bye week, and then lost all those games, ended up 8-8, I believe. Everyone was like, well, it's just Vikings curse. Look at all these injuries on the offensive line. It's just the curse. You can't blame Zimmer for the curse. I used to hear that on my podcast all the time. And you can, because Zimmer has clearly a lot of influence on personnel decisions. And when you ignore a position group that important for that long, you have no success drafting late round offensive linemen, but you have a ton of success drafting late round defensive guys. So obviously you should do one versus the other. And then you bring in guys like Jake Long or Andre Smith who are way past 30. Jake Long's case, he hadn't played for a season. Andre Smith was always kind of known as a lazy, injury-prone guy. And so you bring in these old guys who in their prime were known for getting injured. And they get injured. That's what 35-year-old linemen do that are injury prone. So it was almost by design, and I think it was a cop-out to do that. I do applaud the fact that they've made some moves in the last 2 off seasons. Riley Reef was a good pickup. I think Remmers could have been. He had really no experience in the NFL playing guard, and the fact that you had to move him there, I think, showed the hubris of last season's draft. I think it also might be the most Zimmer thing we can think of, because you knew Berger, who was really, really good as a center, top 3, and a really good right guard. He was retired. So they knew more about Easton's injury than we did. I think a lot of writers and fans were surprised that he was out for the entire year, but they knew where his progress was in regards to his surgery and his shoulder, and so that wasn't a surprise either. I mean, Zimmer never tells people in the offseason or the pre-OTAs, minicamp, training camp, any of that. They never tell people what's going on with injuries because they don't have to, and I don't blame them. But to not invest in the interior offensive line and then move Remmers in there when he doesn't have any experience doing it, I think is nuts. I think he had some experience. I may be confusing him with Reef. I think Reef doesn't have experience. One did and one didn't, but it wasn't very much. Either way, that's not why you paid him that money to bring him in, is the point. And so because they brought in Hughes, there were 4 interior offensive linemen picked between Hughes and O'Neill, and all 4 of them were day 1 starters, and 2 of them won awards. They were, I can't think of their names off the top of my head, but if you look at the 2018 draft, you'll see that. And so, I just think that in regards to DeFilippo and moving money from the defense to the offense, DeFilippo just didn't have a lot to work with. I think he ran the ball sometimes sarcastically, which is a very strange and Vikings-esque thing. I'm gonna run it here, and I'm not even gonna run like the right kind of run in this down and distance because I'm just gonna show Zimmer that it doesn't work. It's like a teenager saying like, I can't take out the garbage because the garbage bag's got a rip in it, and then he like purposefully rips it open and says "see." Um, but I think if DiFilippo was the offensive coordinator this year, for example, things could have been different. I'm not entirely enamored with Stefanski. I don't know where Stefanski begins and Kubiak ends, but I get hints of it. I think as the season has progressed, outside of the Chiefs game, Ting rightfully said was bad play calling. And Monday night, I think we've seen a lot more Kubiak and Dennison stuff than Stefanski stuff. But I don't really know what Stefanski's philosophy is, I guess, either. I just know what Kubiak's is, and I see it. I see heavy personnel. I see 2 tight ends. I see 3 tight ends. I see um, zone blocking, zone running, 2 running backs. And so while they're very, very good at what they're doing in Kubiak and Dennison, I think it's a completely different set of circumstances than what DiFilippo had, and that's where I get a little irked too is about talking like comparing Cousins this season last year to Keenum's the year before. Keenum had a much better offensive line. The only time Keenum had an offensive line that was even close to as bad as Cousins' was last year was in the playoffs. They had to shuffle the line after the bye because of Easton. And in the regular season, though, they had, what were the 5? Left to right. Reef, Easton, Elfline, Berger, Remmers at his natural position. Way better than Reef, Compton, Elfline, Remmers, O'Neal. A lot of people don't think about that. I know I go off on a lot of tangents here. Tank says that Pat Elfline pre 2018 was a beast. I agree with you. I get it. I'm a big I've said this a few times, but Big Ten guys, especially offensive linemen, I think are better pro players, and I can get into that a different show because it's a thesis that I'm writing. It always infuriated me that if you want to call Penn State linebacker you can call Wisconsin offensive lineman and they're right next to us, and the Gophers play them every year, and we don't go for their guys. One of the 4 offensive linemen, interior ones I was talking about just a few minutes ago, he was a Wisconsin guy, so I should remember his name. But they're bigger. I know this offensive line, since Dennison got here especially, is more predicated on smaller, more physical guys. But Elfline, I think he's playing better. But he was really struggling bad. And there was I read an article before I got on air that I wanted to bring up because I've given Rashad Hill a lot of shit, and I think he played really well Monday night. He gave up no sacks, no pressures. He was going against Clowney too. I think he has his if he ends up playing with Reef being questionable, that he is going to have a pretty tough day with Trey Flowers coming in, up against him. But he's played really well in small intervals this season, and increasingly so. And he was really, really bad for a while. But I think, I made a joke Monday night during our live game commentary, like, oh no, Rashad Hill. But he played good, so I should say that. I can admit when I'm wrong, which I think is unfortunately a rare trait amongst people who do what I'm doing. And so I've been wrong about him, and so I'm not as apoplectic about him starting Monday or Sunday tomorrow, assuming he does. Thielen won't play. He's doubtful. Cook is going to play. That's important. I'm a little worried about Blau. I mean, he had a great first quarter. He kind of fell back to earth from that, but Big Ten again. He's a Purdue guy. I watched him a lot in college. He's a good, undrafted guy, but he's good. Purdue every once in a while produces really good quarterbacks. Drew Brees, Kyle Orton was one of those, and so I'm not underestimating what he does tomorrow at all. For obvious reasons. I mean, you guys know that the team struggled with backup quarterbacks a lot this season and in general under Zimmer. So Nick Foles haunts my dreams. All right, one more topic, and then I'm gonna run. Tang says that he doesn't know if Elflein will ever go back to his 2017 form. Yeah, I guess we'll see. I mean, he has played better, but he won the same award that Bradbury won as the best center in the country, and he did look really, really good his rookie year, and he was clearly not 100% last year. I don't know specifically what his injury was or what the timetable for return from that would be, but you mix that with moving a guy to a position he hasn't played since his junior year of college against the level of competition that they go against week to week. And I guess I'm at least encouraged that he's playing better, because that to me doesn't at least fully mean that it's some degenerative thing that he can't at least get either heal from or learn to play with, I guess. I was really surprised, though, that he struggled because, and maybe I just latched onto a quote from his rookie season, but he, in the Star Tribune in his rookie year, said that he felt more comfortable playing guard than center. And so I loved the Bradbury move because I thought you use a first round pick and you just massively upgraded two positions with one pick. I still think Elflein is better than Compton, even at his bottom, but I really wasn't a big fan, and maybe that was me being stubborn and not admitting I was wrong. But I didn't want to be. I wasn't a big fan of people saying they should bench him for Samia. Speaking of Samia, though, I'm also surprised that he's as low on the depth chart as he's been behind behind Klein and what's his face, the swing guard slash center that played for the Giants. What's wrong with my brain? Anyway, Samia was behind him, and he's been cut and re-signed by the Vikings twice. And Samia played on the best offensive line in the country at Oklahoma. They won that, whatever that award is called. And so I thought, really, that Josh Klein would be a placeholder for him, and that he would, midway through the season or so, come in and fill in and start and never give the position back. He didn't even get on the field when Klein was injured with his second concussion or his first concussion. So I think he's more of a project than I thought he was. I know he's a physical specimen, and a lot of those guys tend to rely on their size in college and their talent more so than their form and technique, because you're not going against other guys of your skill level every week. Some of those guys are going to end up being insurance salesmen a year after they graduate. And so we'll see, but I think that depending on what happens with Klein, I mean, Klein has been the unsung hero of this team this season, really. There was a drastic change between how the line played when he was in the game and how they played since. So we'll see. I don't know. I at times like this, to put a bow on the game tomorrow, my thoughts, but I'll do a pregame tomorrow too. So if you guys want to come hang out, we'll do that, and then we'll do a live chat on the site, and then I'll do a halftime and a post-game show. But times like this, things could really go sideways, it feels, because that's how it's worked in years past. And so I'm not entirely confident in tomorrow's game. I really hope they come out and make a statement, especially on defense, at least in the run game. I have no faith in Rhodes. I don't think he should play. I think they should bench him and put Hughes out there or Holton Hill or some combination they're in, because that's what you can't have a guy that what he does negates the work of the other 10 guys. And this defense, whenever they've asked players when things are going well, why they work so well, it's because they focus on their assignment solely, because they have absolute faith in the guy next to them doing the same thing and executing it. And when you have a guy like that, that's that big of a liability, then you have your safeties are thinking, well, I have to cover for Xavier, and then they start to screw up. The linebackers do. It's just a ripple effect. And again, if you can't trust your first round pick to come in at this point, then especially considering what it meant to last season and the offensive line, then I'm a little perturbed, because we have 4 games left. They're going to need to have a trial by fire and hope that they can do well enough in the playoffs and the offense can score enough points to do something. But Rhodes is he should not be playing. I don't understand if he's. I haven't heard anything. People are saying December might be too proud. Either way, ugh. And Tank said we should do a live Q&A one of these streams. Like with you guys on video? I wish we could. I know we can just solely on Periscope, where people can call in and do like a FaceTime type thing. But I would love to do that. Also, Colin, thanks for the sub. That means a lot to me. You guys watching this means a lot to me. I mean, a lot of my opinions are very popular, and that's fine. We don't have to agree on everything, but we can respect each other and debate it and have fun doing it. And I think that's what this show's about. I think that's what we've been doing. Tang is a great example of that. Colin, I also love that comment. Cousins apologizes, then plays like an MVP. Rose apologizes, then ruins the season. Fill in the blank. Yeah. So Ting Moore meant doing a Q&A, reading and answering comments. That's what I was kind of trying to do today, but I latched on. I talk a lot, so that's the goal of Open Line Saturday. I'll do a better job of that though. Of as opposed to going on these 10, 15 minute rants that go all over the place. I'll more follow, and it'll be easier once we get more followers too. The other day we had a lot more, but we'll get there. But I do again want to thank you guys for checking the show out, for subscribing. It really does mean a lot to me, and I'm having a great time doing this with you guys. It's like Vikings therapy should be the name of the show, with the logo of one of those therapist couches, or a bottle of Zoloft or something. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, we can work on that. I also don't want to get too repetitive either. Especially in days like between yesterday and today, there's not a whole lot of news. But we'll get there. I want to make sure that I'm hearing you guys' feedback and making the best show possible. I'm going to try to get Nick Swartzen on the show next week. I don't know how I would make that work because this laptop sucks. But I'll figure it out and I'll keep you guys posted. Check out Grey Duck Vodka if you guys are looking to get your drink on before the game tomorrow. And Tang, again, email me and I'll send you one of those Don't Get Too Cute shirts. And for everyone else, check out the shirts and junk section of Purple PTSD and Vikings territory. And we got some cool stuff there. So thanks again, everyone, for tuning in. I'll see you tomorrow before the game, and let's go get 'em. Skol.